If I share a photo or video online of myself, it's not that uncommon for people to comment that I've got good skin, which is very, very lovely of people, but I just wanted to share something with you. More often than not, it's just down to lighting. Now, don't get me wrong, I am lucky in that I don't tend to get too many spots. I do get dark circles under my eyes, but they're not too bad. But like I say, the thing that makes a massive, massive difference is the lighting. So to share that, I'm going to show you a few differences just by spinning around in my studio. So at the minute, I'm stood in front of my window. Generally speaking, natural light is going to give the best effect. Again, there's always exceptions to that rule, especially if it's a very, very bright day and you get a very harsh look or you get shadows across your face. In that case, you might want to step somewhere a little bit more sheltered, but generally speaking, I say natural light is going to be the most flattering. At the minute, if I spin this round, see, it's a very grey, wet, dull day. It's raining, my windows are dirty, but even that is enough just to highlight my skin a little bit, brighten me up, make my eyes a little bit more sparkly. If I move away from the window, you see it's not as bright and I'm starting to get shadows under here, and you can see the lines in my head more if I move sideways. And again, you're seeing more shadows, more lines. Ooh. It's just not as bright, it's not as fresh looking. Obviously, I'm not changing anything on the camera, there's no filters. Yeah. Now, normally, if I spin all the way around and then the light's behind me, then it's very dark and very dull and low contrast. At the minute, for some reason, although it's quite dull outside, there's a lot of light coming in and bouncing off of my mirror. So maybe if I come down here, there you go. So it's not as pronounced as it normally is, but you can just see the contrast has dropped quite a bit. If I come over here and look up, I've got spots on the ceiling. So again, I've got bright light in my face, so it's just brightened me up a little bit again. But because it's quite, the spots, so they're quite direct and quite bright, which means if I put anything in front of my face, you're getting shadows again. But generally speaking, not a good angle. Daylight is going to give the best result. So it's just bearing that in mind when you're taking photographs or taking video. It's not necessarily about having the best light all the time, it's just about considering your options and not plumping for something that's going to give a really unflattering effect. Especially if it's really dull and low contrast, it's just not going to look great on your timeline when you share it. So just have a little play around in your studio, in your area, see what difference it makes, see what difference some angles make in terms of if you, apart from when people take selfies, they're doing this at arm's length, not flattering compared to lifting up a bit higher. Let's say just have a play around and see how you get on. A useful thing you can get if you want to have more consistent light and for it to be portable is a selfie ring. So this particular one has a battery pack that has a horseshoe attachment to attach to a camera, but you can use it as its own little device. There we go. I'm turn the light on and blind everybody. So you would just point this at whatever it is you want to illuminate. There you go. And it will give a nice bright light. You can turn the brightness down and you can turn it up. Quite often these little things come with various attachments. So if I turn this off a little minute so you can see, there you go. So there's a diffuse light. If I put this on, it will give a more cooling light. Although it looks very opaque, when the light shines through it, it's fairly translucent. So it's just slightly tinting things a bit cooler or slightly tinting things a bit warmer. And you do that just by there you go. You can see all the bulbs that are providing the light source. And swap them over. So it is a useful thing to have. Like I say, this one is quite cumbersome because it's designed to go onto a digital SLR camera. But the reason I'm showing it to you is because you get these where they look pretty much the same, they just don't have these cables attached, and they clip directly onto your mobile phone or your tablet. So it's really good, not only illuminating your skin, but also if you're doing product photography, especially small scale stuff, it will help brighten up that image and just get a bit more light on there. I do have a couple of little clip-on ones onto my phones, but I've lent them to people recently, so I don't have them to show you. But I'm going to put a picture of them in the handout that accompanies these videos, so you can have a look at them there. You can pick them up from a few pounds, so like I say, they are worth looking into and considering if you just want to have that little extra bit of light, but something that's really quite portable. One of the easiest and most accessible forms of lighting is just using any old light or a spotlight. These lights like this are good because they're posable, they're bendy. So what that means is if you're trying to photograph something or film something, you can change the position of the light and it will dramatically change the look of what you're trying to photograph. There you go. So these are always worth looking into, and like I say, most people, have a light or a lamp that you can use. The downside with something like this, especially the small ones, is it's very defined. It's a small light, but also can you see it's quite a warm colour. So depending on what you're photographing, that sort of warm yellowy hue might not be the best for what you're trying to shoot, especially with things like jewellery, because quite often we want to knock out those warm yellowy colours and replace them with sort of cooler blues because it makes the silver stand out more. Similar to the selfie lights, you can get ones for specifically for doing videos. The difference is they're exactly the same, but they're just bigger. And because they're bigger, they're more expensive. So as you can see, this is a selfie ring or a light ring, very similar to the small one that I showed you, whereas this is a rectangular box. And you can get really small ones of these, little pocket sized ones, and you can get really big ones. And like I say, generally speaking, the bigger they are, the more bulbs they have, the brighter they are, the more expensive they are. But just to show you how they work, if I can find the control for one of them, hidden behind here, I'll turn it on, there we go. And then you can change the brightness, so it's on maximum, and now I'm going to knock it down to its lowest. And again, I'm going to knock it back up to its brightest, so it makes quite a difference. Most of them you can attach to tripods or holders, so depending on what you attach it to, you might be able to bend it and change the angle. Similar to the small selfie ring that I showed you before, this one comes with little inserts. So there's the bulbs. This is a little clear frosted insert, so it'll be the natural light and it's just going to diffuse it a little bit. But it also came with a blue one, so it just makes things a little bit cooler, and it came with a yellow one that makes things a little bit warmer. This big video selfie ring, it's the same idea. It didn't come with any colour changing adapters, it's just the colour that it is, but similarly you can oh actually no, I'm telling a lie, it does, but it's inbuilt. There you go, so that's the warm, cool, neutral, and again you can turn it up and you can turn it down depending on how much illumination you require. The thing that makes this one different is that you're able to hold your phone in the middle of it, so instead of having a bright light coming directly at everything, there's a light that sort of diffuses and bounces around your subject, so it's a little bit softer. A popular option for lighting is a light box. So you get pop-up boxes that have translucent diffuse sides. This is my old one. As you can see, I would need to, well, I could use this as the base, but I would really need to put my own background in there, so a piece of card or paper or fabric, and I would also need to provide my own lighting to illuminate it. But light boxes are really good, especially if you're doing product photography. They're not quite so much for, you know, shooting things on the fly and necessarily sharing behind the scenes, but if you need to take photographs, let's say, of products with bright white backgrounds, either for magazine and print, or maybe for a stylized background, but you just want to have a lot of control over the lighting, a light box can be good. Like I say, this is my old one. It's got yellow staining on it. It's not showing up too well in this video, but where the lights have sort of scorched this. This is an example of a modern light box. So again, it just pops up from flat. But one of the main differences is it comes with its own lights. It's got little LED lights under here that you can plug in. This one comes with a range of background inserts that you can use, but you could always use your own. We're going to talk about backgrounds in these videos as well. The other main difference is this one has sides all the way around. So unlike mine, where it's got 3 diffuse sides, this one's got them all the way around. And you can see how that light just makes the stone nice and shiny. The other thing is it's got a hole at the top, so if you wanted to, you could shoot from above. And again, if shake your hands, if I had this on a tripod, I could zoom in and get a nice clear shot. Light boxes have come way down in price since I first invested in this older one, and also they're better. So, you know, brighter, more options with them. But this one was only about £10. So you can get them dirt cheap now. But equally, if you want to try one out, you don't want to invest in buying one. If you go onto Google or Pinterest or wherever you want to do your searches and type in handmade light box, you will find a whole host of tutorials about how you can make your own equivalent of one of these out of things like a box and some tracing paper. So you don't necessarily need to buy a specific thing. And the same with the backgrounds. I mean, they're not all the most useful colours, so more often than not people end up using their own anyway.